we had a video we were showing, and so we had to take you down because it was possibly violating. Was it violating? Copyright, yeah. But I wasn't making any money. Okay. All right. So we're back to the stromatolites. I think we need to zoom in again so we can see the computer. Is that straight? Does it look straight to you? Okay. So on your stromatolites, you already have bacterial sand boulders, still exist today, generating oxygen. This oxygen created the oxygen revolution, and it generated a protective ozone shield, which we then attempted to destroy, which we're now working to repair. All right? And then when we look at the formation of the eukaryotic cells, that brings us to the endosymbiotic hypothesis. Real quick, youngest bio buddy, give them a synopsis of the endosymbiotic hypothesis. All right. So this is the idea that ancestral mitochondria and chloroplasts went to live inside and become the organelles. There's more to it as well. Invagination of the cell membrane could have been all of things like rough and smooth ER and Golgi apparatus and all of that. And infolding of that membrane around the nucleoid region at the time could then have become the nucleus. So there's a little bit more to it than that. But as far as the prokaryotes go, mitochondria and chloroplasts are the right size. They have their own DNA. It's not packaged on histones. Okay, remember there were histone and non-histone proteins in the nucleus. So which ones formed the nucleosomes? Histones. Yeah, non-histone proteins would be regulatory, but prokaryotic cells don't have that. Their DNA is not linear, right? It is what? Circular, and it's not packaged that way. And that's how it is for mitochondria and chloroplasts. They are self-replicating. They divide by what? Binary fission, good. There are two membranes. The outer membrane is like eukaryotes, and the inner membrane is like prokaryotes. And then multicellularity. The first multicellular organisms were very thin, flat, soft-bodied, obviously invertebrates, right? And Ediacardian fossils. These are like, you can see them, how thin and flat they are. Initially 2 layers, no mouth, but gave rise to other invertebrates. So that is the end of our Precambrian time. We're going to move into the Cambrian time and the Cambrian explosion. This is a super simplified diagram, okay? And this Precambrian square right here showing this is not representative of time, right? It would have to drop all the way down to the floor and out the door, right, in order to represent, because that's 87% of it. But you can see the Paleozoic, and you can see some of the things. Oh, who's that? Right at the junction of Precambrian and Paleozoic. We can see Mesozoic. Look at those flowers. Look at those mammals. Look at that caveman. All right, so now I'm going to show you a chart, okay? And, oh, bye, sweetheart. So if you look right here, here's Precambrian. This is everything we've already talked about. Take a look at this. Make sure you're familiar with it. Check it out with your bio buddy. We good? We good? Because 3,500 million years would be like what? 3.5 billion. Okay, I'm just checking. All right, so now let's take a look. Here in the Paleozoic, how many mass extinctions do we have?
3.
How many? 3. 3 mass extinctions. In the Mesozoic era, we have the remaining 2, right? And there's a total of 5 mass extinctions. That's why I had you do a POGL, right, last night or the night before to get that done. And then there are 5 mass extinctions. We could be contributing to the 6th extinction, right? There's books written about that. But if you look at the Paleozoic era, what I want you to see is this gradual transition. Look where we are here. Plant-wise, we're at just marine algae. This is like scum on the water, right? But they're doing what process? Photosynthesis, okay? So then what starts to happen? First plants on land. The marine algae, they are going up, right? They're getting like, this is our time. We are the algae time. So but now who's showing up? Non-vascular plants. Now, in case you don't remember about Xylem and Phloem, are you dialed into me? Are you awake and are you focused? Okay. Xylem and Phloem is just like we have arteries and veins. Xylem, do you know what it transports in plants? Water, and phloem, sugars. Yeah. So if you're a plant in the water like algae, you get all the oxygen you need and all the water you need because you're floating in the water. But if you're on land, you have to be able to access that water from the ground. Also, imagine seaweed, like at the beach, right? If you pick up seaweed and you just hold it up and then you let go, will it stay up? No. There are no supportive cells to hold it up because you don't need that in the water, because in the water, what are you doing? You're floating, okay? So all of those little air sacs, exactly. So those structures had to evolve to get on land. These are very small land plants, like bryophyte is what they're called. And so they don't have any xylem and they don't have any phloem. Then up here we have seedless vascular plants. So now you have vascularization, you have your xylem and phloem, but you don't have the protection of a seed coat on the outside to protect your embryo. All right, then look, we have seedless vascular plants diversify. So now they're on the rise. So we had algae, then we start to have vascularization. Now we're starting to have seedless vascular plants, and then we're going to have our first seed plants appear. Okay, we keep moving up, age of coal-forming forests, and we end at gymnosperms. Gymnosperms are Christmas trees and Hanukkah bushes. So when we say life exploded in the Paleozoic Era, you're going from little bits of algae all the way up to a gymnosperm. That's a lot of transition within that time period. Okay, when you look at animals, we're starting right here with invertebrates. And you have the very first chordates. Let me tell you, you are classified as the subphylum Vertebrata. It's a subphylum of the phyla chordate. That's where we're headed. Okay, we have invertebrate spread. We have jawless fish. The big jawless fish that you might read about is Agnatha. I always remember that because you can say its name without using a jaw. Say it. Agnatha. Okay, good. Then we have some jawed fish. Then look what's happening. Who's diversifying right now? Jawed fish. But who's showing up now?
First amphibians.
Amphibians, because amphibians would have evolved from fish. So amphibians can live life on land, but they're still tied to water for reproduction. Okay, they still need the water. Then our amphibians are gaining ascendancy, but now who else is starting to show up? Reptiles, and now the reptiles are diversifying. So we're starting to get ready for that transition full transition onto land. That's what we're going to see in the Mesozoic Era. Okay? Not it. You're either a plant or an animal. Tell your story. Started from the bottom, now we're here. Go. All right, I'm moving on. Here's a picture that was drawn by a sketch artist during that time. Okay, so Paleozoic Era, here are the trilobites we talked about. Okay, a molecular clock. We don't measure time in seconds or minutes. We measure it in mutations, changes in DNA. Okay, so if the three of us were one species, but then we went our own different ways, right? We would start when we were one species with the same mutations in our DNA because we're the same and we're an interbreeding population. Do you agree with me on that? But as we go our own ways, I'm going to have my own selection pressures, my own mutations, right, that are going to impact me. So what you're seeing right here is, if you know that typically 5 mutations occur every million years, and so now we've been separated for a while and we want to know how long have we been separated as a species, we count up how many mutational differences there are between us, right? So discuss with your bio buddy, what is the answer if we counted up 20 mutations between us? Go. Did you get 4? Because you're right, right? So if you look at this, there's 20 mutations. How many mutations occur? So that's 5, 10, 15, 20. That's 4 million years. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's the molecular clock. So when you look at this, to simplify it, when you talk about the Paleozoic Era, here's when it started. Here about 248, 250 million years ago is when it ended. We went from algae to gymnosperms. We went from invertebrates all the way up to early reptiles. Okay, let's put this in our notes. Go to the Paleozoic Era. The Cambrian animals, that was the very first period in the Paleozoic Era. And the Cambrian animals, all life traces its ancestry to this Cambrian explosion. Animals had protective exoskeletons, fossilized well, trilobite is the key. Molecular clock is based on the principle that mutations in certain parts of the genome occur at a fixed rate. And they are not tied to what, these mutations? Not tied to what? Natural selection. It's right there in your notes. I would highlight that, okay? Not tied to natural selection. So the number base pair differences indicate how long 2 species have evolved separately. Invasion of land happens over a long period of time. Plants go from algae all the way to what? Gymnosperms. Okay, Hanukkah bushes, Christmas trees. I would highlight algae and gymnosperms, so you think those are your bookends. On number 4, does yours lead with invertebrates? Mm-hmm. I would put animals before that because I left that off. So animals go from invertebrates, arthropods, vertebrates, fish, amphibians, to early reptiles. Okay, insects evolving during the Paleozoic Era are a very big deal. And not only are these insects, but they're insects with wings, okay? Because now they can spread out to all different areas that they couldn't reach before, right? Because now they have their wings. And also, this is going to be some coevolution with flowers, exactly. Because flowering plants, you could be wind pollinated if you're a flowering plant, but insect pollinated is very helpful. So that's happening at this time. This is when your coal forests are growing, and that's what, if you're burning gas in your car, that's what you're using. Okay, now let's go to the Cenozoic or Mesozoic Era. So on your Mesozoic Era, you have your time. Plants are going from gymnosperms to the beginnings of angiosperms. And animals are going from reptiles to early mammals. Reptiles to early mammals. So when you look at this picture here with our plants, here's the Mesozoic Era right here. Here are your second 2 mass extinctions. So you can see conifers, flowering plants are starting, and it's all about flowering, and herbs. Animal-wise, you can see first mammals are starting to appear, but dinosaurs are flourishing. Now we have placental mammals beginning to appear. Of all the mammals, those are the ones that are most successful. So this is all about mammals, first hominids, and man. Okay, so it's all about flowers and man in the Cenozoic Era. So if you were to look at a forest, these are cycads. You probably have some cycads growing around your garden at home, and then maybe you would have seen a therapsid walking by. There's your therapsid. And then that's going to be a transition to mammals, okay? So here's an early mammal. We can see maybe the dinosaurs went extinct. We'll talk about what caused them. I think Fowler shows you that picture. Here you can see the different types of dinosaurs. Triassic period was the first period, and then Jurassic in the middle, and then this is the Cretaceous, the last period of the Mesozoic Era. Okay? And then this brings us to the Cenozoic Era. So your Cenozoic Era, your plants are going from angiosperms to herbs. And your animals, you're starting to get your primates here. You can look at your primates, okay? All the way to man. And then you have some ice age going on here. Remember that? Here's your ice age. Okay, so animals are mammals to humans. Plants are angiosperms to herbs. Now notice what it says about certain organisms. As the environment changed, they could have become extinct, or man could have wiped them out. That would be another option. Okay, last but not least, we need to remember that the earth impacts life and life impacts the earth. So continental drift, when you have continents moving around, where something could live and grow in that environment, if the continent moves to a colder area, it may not be adapted to it, so it's going to take that life away. But we can also see how life affects Earth, because remember when we saw in the video that the cyanobacteria created a whole lot of what? Oxygen. And the Earth became a giant snow globe, right? And then what happened? The Earth started having more and more what? Volcanoes, which then warmed the Earth back up, right? So life, Earth, they all impact one another. We know that the continents with plate tectonics, we know about things like fault lines that are trying to get past each other. We know here's the San Andreas Fault right here from above. Okay, your mass extinctions, you did a whole POGL about that, the different types of extinctions. This, I don't know if you want or not, but this shows you some of the different, what could have caused those mass extinctions. So on your notes, go to continental drift. Number 1, the word you want there is shared. Number 2, you want patterns. Number 3, you want diversity on different continents. Okay, and then for mass extinctions, there are 5 mass extinctions, 3 in the Paleozoic Era, ending with the Great Dying, where how much life was lost? 83%. Good. And then when extinctions occur, new habitats open for other species. For example, when dinosaurs went extinct, that gave room for what? Mammals. Okay, the last slide I want to show you, if you can be with me here just for a minute. These are really good terms that I would like you to review. Some of them you know, some of them you don't know. Okay, Evo Devo, I would love for you to watch this video. If we had time, I would have shown it to you. Look it up. Oh, it went away. Evo Devo is on YouTube if you just Google it. Okay, and then you want to just see, like, here, this is the connection of evolutionary biology and development. These are adaptations. They're co-opted. Like maybe feathers were for warmth, but they became what? Wings, right? Heterochrony, chrony means chronological or time. Hetero means different time. So changing the rate of development, if you have really long phalanges, we have shorter phalanges, then maybe you could be a bat that flies. Does that make sense? And then you know about homeotic and Hox genes, and I gave those to you in your notes. Oh. Oh, okay. So you have all the notes, right? Yes. What do I owe you?
Mass extinctions number 3, the last.
Oh, sorry. What is that called? Adaptive radiation. Perfect. Okay. So try and watch this Evo Devo video, which is not showing up. I would love to have shown it to you today. And do your lab, and then you're over, if you're going to find out about AP, I would go do that next door. All right, and I hope that was helpful. Bye. Yeah, I know. Okay, here we go. Yes, I want.